News Talk 98.9, the roar of Memphis. Tool Talk Radio with Joe and Allan.
Welcome to Tool Talk Radio, coming to you from the Brown Refrigeration Studios. I'm Joe Thorderson with Thor's Hammer, Carpentry and Wood Turning.
I'm Allan Gilbreth with darkoakmedia.com.
And I'm Maximilian, and it's going to be one of those days. Happy World Bicycle Day.
Nice. Okay.
Well, that's because you're working off National Donut Day, right?
Yes.
Yeah,
okay,
after
awesome.
you pound down 12 donuts, you better get on the bike and burn it off. So, all right, that's a good one, Max. And I have to imagine there's lots of enthusiasts out there celebrating today.
Oh, there were driving through the park today. There were a lot out.
Oh, yeah. All right, that's a good one, Max. You can call or text us at the Big M Roofing and Remodeling Hotline at 901-683-0989. Actually, you know what would be good with that? If they have a really, there's some of these really unusual bicycles.
Or if they're listening to us on their bicycle.
Yeah, if you're listening while you're riding your bike or something like that.
Be careful.
Send us a text. Show us what you got. No, you know what I mean, Allan. I've seen these bikes. They almost look like a car where they're don't look at me that way. You're sitting down. It's a two-passenger deal.
There are all kinds of interesting, we'll say, human motorized transport out there these days.
How about this? So now, Max, I don't want to beat this into the ground, but where do unicyclists fall into this? I mean, are they just left in the cold today, or?
I guess so.
Okay. Well, we'll
unicyclists are weird.
All right. It's a lot of effort just to get nowhere, really, if you want to know the truth. But,
I'm not. Where's a unicycle? It's usually sitting under a tree.
That sounds like the lyrics to one of your songs.
Yeah,
a lot of effort to get nowhere.
Really. So, hey, also we want to invite you, once Max gets the camera activated, to go to the Royal Retreat Studio Cam on the News Talk 98.9 The Roar Facebook page, because I hope you'll have it on at the next break, Max. I think there's a signal connection, but regardless, we love the Royal Retreat Studio Cam. We love the folks over there at Royal Retreat. And then, of course, Allan, they need to get over to the Tool Talk Radio Facebook page right after that, because we've already made 3 posts. So naturally, we made our must-have item of the week, which is up there. And it's funny, Allan, this is going to usher in a 3-pronged discussion.
You're going with a dad joke theme. All right.
It's true, though. You and I look at this item.
You could bring up an entire what can we say? A cacophony of interest in this.
This is definitely an inexpensive item, yet critical.
Oh,
How often is that? We talk about that anyway. So, Allan, later in the show, I should say later today, we're going to scoot on over to the Italian Festival over at Marquette Park.
We are.
Over at Park in Mendenhall, because it's the, I don't know what annual one, but it's been around for a while, the Italian Fest. And knock on wood, so far the weather has held out all weekend. You were there last night.
It was very pleasant.
Okay, we're set up right next to the booze tent, right, Allan? I mean,
yes, we are. We're right over by the beer garden, the wine shop, and the Do You Want to Win a Car?
Yeah, right next to the So if you want to try to win that car, stop over. Yep. And Allan's got the swag. He brought some stuff for you. He brought the swag. So.
How fitting that you guys are close to the booze.
Yeah. Well, it's like baiting over
hunting over
it's
a
like chumming
field.
the waters.
Yep.
No, it's also the state you have to be in to listen to the show.
Hey. So you'll be promoting that. I'll be promoting the Memphis Comic and Fantasy Convention, as long as we're putting out shameless plugs. And
absolutely.
I want to mention that our celebrity guest of honor, listeners here won't know this. We have booked Mo Collins, who, among other things, was on Mad TV, but also, Allan, she was Joan Calamezzo on Parks and Recreation. She's a really funny lady, and she's going to be at the Memphis Comic and Fantasy Convention November. She'll be there November 10th and 11th, but the convention goes on November 10th through 12th. So, Allan, you and I will be there promoting quite a few things and giving out free stuff. So make sure you stop by and see us. So, Allan, on Historically Terrible, I've already posted this image, and it's funny.
I started giggling.
I don't purposely, pick on the 1970s, or maybe I do. But today
there's a lot there to pick on.
There's plenty to go for. So today we're going to discuss waterbeds. Need I say more?
We're going to get some calls on this one.
I feel like waterbeds are one of those things too, though, Allan. You either know it or you don't. Like, there's some people that they wouldn't get near a waterbed, and then there's others that go, oh my gosh, I remember the waterbed.
Oh yeah. And the fact that you had a cat.
Yeah. Okay, so we got quite a bit to get to today, Alan, and there's more here that I'm not going to tease because what's the point? So, oh wait, no, I have one more thing.
One more thing.
In honor of the Italian festival. For our great moments in building history today, how fitting. We're going to celebrate the city of Venice, Italy. I mean, you talk about it's okay. So on one hand, it is a architectural marvel, really.
It is.
But it's funny, Alan. I'm not ashamed to admit I learned quite a bit when I research these. Great moments in building history, because it's one thing to go, okay, well, this is they did this. They built a city on canals and islands and stuff, but then I never really asked myself why they did it. And I learned why they did it, and it's pretty fascinating and why they did it and what they're doing today to save this. So this might be a pretty in-depth discussion as well. So
there's a lot there to discuss and uncover.
Yeah. So there's quite a bit. And, and as we say, we want you to give us your feedback and call in at the Big M Roofing and Remodeling Hotline, 901-683-0989. Okay. In that vein, Alan, I want to throw something out to the panel and especially our listeners because
is out there.
Fluoride is used by the communists to control our minds.
No, it's not.
Fact. Space does not exist.
Fact. Bears eat beets. Oh, bears. Beets. Battlestar Galactica.
Bears do not. What is going on? What are you doing?
Okay, I forgot about that one, Max. So Max is pulling out a deep cut there. So, all right, I'm going to throw this out there. I'm going to set it up, and then when we come back, maybe we can roundtable this a little. Okay, Alan, I've lived here in Memphis, I don't know, 28, 29 years, right?
Okay.
This is literally something I've never experienced ever in my whole history of living here. I was leaving the Home Depot over by Truce Parkway there.
Right.
So I'm at the corner of Mendenhall and Poplar. And folks, if you live in the area, I think you know what I'm talking about. And I had to head to near Overton Park. And if my math is correct, I think there are 14 stoplights between there. And I've made this trip thousands of times.
Okay.
It takes me approximately 15 minutes to get there. Well, I hit every single green light moving there. I mean, I didn't hit one red light. I didn't stop for anything, man. I went straight from Mendenhall all the way to Overton Park, and it took me about 6.5 minutes. So here's my question, Alan. Normally, it takes me about 15 minutes.
Right.
So what if somebody left 5 minutes ahead of me, and yet I would arrive before them?
Wow.
Now, I don't want your answer because you probably have a scientific, but to me, I see that almost as a time paradox. I'm behind them, and we're going the exact same
paradox.
road.
Oh, yeah.
And I think there's something there, Alan. And I think there's other things, even in the HVAC world, that connect to it. There are all sorts of paradoxes, and we're going to unpack that when we get back. So, just put a pin in it now. I know you're bursting at the seams to tackle that one.
We'll get there.
You're listening to Tool Talk Radio here at News Talk 98.9 The Roar Memphis. We'll be right back.
Tool Talk Radio with Joe and Allan.
This is glue. Strong stuff.
News Talk 98.9 The Roar of Memphis.
I mean, why buy anything else, Allan? If it's not strong, what's the point? And welcome back to Tool Talk Radio, coming to you from the Brown Refrigeration Studios. I'm Joe Thorderson with Thor's Hammer, Carpentry and Wood Turning, here with my buddy Allan Gilbreth from darkoakmedia.com and our pal Max over there behind the glass. You can call or text us at the Big M Roofing and Remodeling Hotline at 901-683-0989. And Max he did his duty. He got the cameras going again, Allan. So if you want to watch the show, you can head over to the News Talk 98.9 The Roar Facebook page and watch us on the Royal Retreat studio cams. So
absolutely.
Max's camera's conveniently off again. Hey, Allan, what if I secretly just kind of steered my camera over towards him or something? I wonder if that...
I would notice.
It would give away the... Yeah, he
I'm trying to figure out how you're going to do anything secretly.
Yeah, good point. I mean, I'm sitting right here in the open. But if you want to do that, get over there. And then, of course, afterwards, get over to the Tool Talk Radio Facebook page and check out the 3 posts we made, which are all going to be very interesting. And they're all sort of... they either involve water or, other things. So... check that out. So, Allan, before the break, I posited something because I had an experience that I've never had in 28 or 29 years of living in Memphis.
Right.
I was telling people that I was driving from Mendenhall and Poplar, going down Poplar, heading west, and I had to go to Overton Park, which was about 14 stoplights down, which is normally about a 15-minute drive. I hit every single green light. I didn't have to slow down. I just was plowing through, and I made it there in about 6 minutes, 6 or 7 minutes.
Right.
And so I put it out there, Alan. I believe this is a time paradox that I'm dealing with because somebody there's a car that could have left 5 minutes ahead of me, maybe, and they would have hit the normal amount of red lights. They would have hit some green lights, but I would have arrived before them.
That's
it
correct.
Sounds impossible.
No,
I would love our listener, and I don't know that I want your answer. I kind of want our listeners' answer. If you've got a thought about how that is possible, or if it's a true paradox. But what do you think? I don't know that I want your answer, but what do you think of that? So,
I'm going to leave it as that is not the only strip in Memphis where that can happen.
Okay. No, I believe that.
There are actually a number of traffic light setups in this city where that is entirely possible.
Oh, yeah.
What I wanted to pose is if someone's really versed in the city planning of Memphis, so to say, if they know the synchronicity of how the lights time out when they go when they turn green and when they turn whatever, if they could in theory master the ability to always hit the green.
I would think so. Because I know there's people that do that, right? That's their job, is to synchronize the.
I'm smiling because it can be done, especially downtown.
Oh yeah, Front Street and all those, or yeah.
There is one strip where if you know the timing of the lights, you can hit every single one perfectly green.
Okay, yeah. So.
Oh yeah, this can easily happen, and not just in Memphis. I run into this in Nashville, and I run into this in New Orleans quite a bit.
Yeah. So, okay, well, that's out there, and maybe we'll come back for that. But I was kind of curious if somebody had an answer for that, like if there is an answer, because
there's
sounds
an answer.
very scientific.
I want to hear everybody's of favorite spot in town where that happens for them.
Okay, all right. So Allan, that's out there. I have a follow-up report. Man, there's a lot here. I mean, it's a busy news. It's a busy news day in the home improvement realm.
Day.
So, okay. So I want to just let you know we have a pallet update.
All right.
And I'm starting to see a real trend here. So, okay, Allan, folks, if you are new to Tool Talk Radio or if you missed last week's show, I mentioned that I get pallets pretty regularly with the work that I do. And I live on a pretty busy corner, so when I want to get rid of my pallets, I literally put it at the street, and they're probably gone within 30 minutes. At worst, they're gone by the next day.
That's called a public donation.
Yeah. So I have no problem getting rid of things. Well, if you remember, I was trying to get rid of 2 pallets last week.
Right.
And these were unusually nice pallets. These were really good. They were in beautiful shape. One had on the top the 3.5-inch strips. The other had the 2-inch strips.
Right.
And I told you the whole ordeal, how the 3.5-inch strip one was gone in no time. That one, and then the 2.5 hung out for 2 or 3 days, and nobody took it.
Okay.
Well, so 2 days ago, Allan, I had another pallet, and this thing was the exact opposite. It was like, by the time I unloaded my stuff, I picked up the pallet, and it literally just broke in half. There was there was wood that was kind of splintered. It was some wood I had to just rip out and throw out.
It was used.
It was not gently used either.
Right.
Well, I put that at the street, and lo and behold, that one got picked up. I put both parts of it at the street. So what is going on, Allan? I mean, I'm seeing a real bias against the 2-inch wood.
All right, the broke up one was just because somebody was barbecuing this weekend. All right, work's already done. Throw it in the truck. Here we go.
Yeah. They were heading to the Italian festival, and they needed rigging. I tell you what,
need a little smoking wood.
Is that what you think it is? I think there's more to this. I think that
well, I have discovered and I am a huge proponent of fun with pallets.
Oh, we know. Yeah, you're a pallet man.
I love making stuff out of pallets.
Okay.
And yes, different pallets have a different attraction. And also different pallets that are made for different industries have different attractions. So if you're looking at...
because you told us the medical ones are really nice.
Ooh, you get into medical and exercise equipment pallets, you are talking some high quality, almost ready to go pallets.
Right.
Very little additional work is needed to turn this into something. And then you have your general, what I call your grunt pallet. And that is like your 2-inch board, rough cut. It's usually some kind of chewed up oak, or maybe it's a pine. And
Right.
those generally are pretty much good for, well, being a pallet.
Those are the ones where they're loading on 500 pounds of gravel in bags or something like that.
Yeah, that's the one hauling shingles. Yeah,
Right.
That's it. Those are attractive if you're looking for chopped up stuff.
Yeah.
So, but I find that there's a different rack of these. Of the really kind of spacey ones, of gardeners like because stuff grows up on them fast. It's like an instant trellis.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
so it's like,
yeah.
Huh. Well, because it can breathe from underneath.
Right. You got plenty of air flow through it and all that kind of stuff. So real easy to do.
Okay.
Another one I found was the latest one I saw was the doggy obstacle course, where just the family member had put post in the ground and just literally slid a pallet over the top of it to make kind of a little doggy run around interest course. I thought that was terribly interesting. And that was just mostly raggedy pallets, not anything great.
And that kept them out. So, okay. Well, anyway, I think there's something to this. And the next time I get pallets, I'll be happy to report in because I know this is going to be an ongoing drama.
Oh, yeah.
So, yeah, I'm sure. So
now we're going to have people stalking your house now for pallets.
But I'm just saying, I mean, the 3.5, even if they're mangled and broken in half, those things are gone. So that wood is the desirable one.
It's an instant table.
This is not a table. Alan, this thing was a train wreck. This is, there were nails sticking out of it. It was falling apart.
Like I said, that was smoking wood.
That's the only good thing about pallets, I guess, is because they're usually not treated wood. So you don't have to worry about burning them if you want, I guess.
They're pretty much raw.
Hey, Alan, I'm sitting here looking at my notes, and actually, so I just want to circle back. So this time paradox question, just let's go ahead and let's you and I tackle this so we can move along, because I don't know if anybody's but I'm surprised that didn't activate Agent 732, but
something else activated him, but I'm not going to tell you. I'm not going to tell you what.
Okay. All right. So, Alan, I do want to know, because I think there's other paradoxes like this, where almost the less is more type thing. I think this even holds true in like your air conditioning settings and things like that.
Right.
But tell us, what do you think the answer is here? How did I arrive? How did I make a 15-minute journey in 6 minutes? And if somebody left ahead of me, how would I have gotten there first?
All right. I've been driving in Memphis forever.
Okay.
And I have learned that chilled and groovy and get in the lane that you want early.
Yeah.
You will almost always beat everybody else headed to the same destination.
Okay. Why is that?
And it is because it is really just a trick of timing. Because in Memphis, there's always going to be that one driver that's going to stick right next to you, and you're not going to be able to get over.
Mm-hmm.
So then you got to rev it up or slow it down.
Right.
However, in a lot of instances where you've got long, straight stretches and periodic lights, speeding up and slowing down just right can tag you right on the green, and you'll just sail right on through.
So is it timed for people that are just more or less driving like you?
Well, it
seems like it.
Well, it's designed to move the most amount of traffic. So if you're flowing easily, then you're going to flow through the traffic easily. If you're fighting the traffic, it's kind of like swimming across the river. If you're working with the river, you're doing great. If you're trying to swim upstream and you're fighting and trying to get through traffic and trying to push your way through as fast as you can, you are going to get stuck forever. It is almost like red lights know you're in a hurry.
Okay, now there's probably a mathematical answer to this. So this journey is probably, if I had to ballpark it, about a 7-mile journey, something like. Let's just call. Well, I don't know what it is. I'd have to look at a map. Let's call it a 6 or 7 mile journey.
Yeah, actually, it's about 5 miles. Yeah.
At some point, where would I have overtaken that person that left 5 minutes ahead of me? I guess that's the thing, because I just can't get over the fact that I just.
It depends on which lane is the clogged one, because they're the ones sitting in that line as you cruise by them again.
Okay, so
when we come back, I'll tell you some road stories.
Well, I don't want to make the whole show about driving, but I found the whole thing fascinating, and I do see a connection to Larry Brown would be the guy I got to consult on this, because I do see a thing where having your air conditioning set at the right airflow is probably more efficient and
yes, and it's actually very
cheaper
true
too. So, all right, whatever. who knows what we're going to do when we come back. You're listening to Tool Talk Radio here at News Talk 98.9 The Roar Memphis. We're going to take a quick break, and we'll be right back.
Tool Talk Radio with Joe and Allan.
I've been going door to door looking for fire hazards. Mind if I give your place a little inspection?
News Talk 98.9 The Roar of Memphis.
I would advise you not to open the door, Allan. I can say I've invited that guy in, and it never ends well. Anyway, welcome back to Tool Talk Radio, coming to you from the Brown Refrigeration Studios. I'm Joe Thorderson with Thor's Hammer, Carpentry and Wood Turning, here with my buddy Allan Gilbreth from darkoakmedia.com and our pal Max over there behind the glass. You can call or text us at the Big M Roofing and Remodeling Hotline at 901-683-0989. And we invite you to go over to the News Talk 98.9 The Roar Facebook page. And if you want to watch the show, it's you can watch us on the Royal Retreat studio cams, which have been activated. I don't know, Allan. I'm looking over there. I think they're on, right? Okay,
yeah, that's us. It's
all
kind
right.
of frightening.
So if you want to see Allan and I, not Max, he's I don't know, camera shy, or he likes his anonymity. Get over there and you can watch that. And also after you do that, jump over to the Tool Talk Radio Facebook page and check out the action over there. There's 3 posts. We have our historically terrible discussion, which we're going to get to momentarily. We have our must-have item of the week, and then we have our great moments in building history, which in honor of the Italian Fest, because, Allan, you know, we love the Italian Fest. We're going to be set up there later.
Yes, we do.
Promoting, and Allan's giving out all sorts of good Tool Talk Radio swag and some other good
come
stuff.
By and subscribe to our channel, and we will bribe you.
Yeah, Allan bribes. He's not above that, bribing you with. There's always stipulations with Allan. You can't just say, "Oh, I like that Tool Talk Radio tool belt. Can I have one?" It's like, well, what do they have to do? Allan, what are the stipulations? Maybe it's not that big a deal.
All they got to do is subscribe to us on our wonderful podcast at YouTube. So we are 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, portable. They can take us with them.
That's true. Yeah. Okay. So do that, and you can get some cool Tool Talk
we'll come
Radio
by and swag you up.
Okay. All right. And all right, so do that. We'll be there later in the day. Allan, I think you're going to get there before I am, but whatever. So it's going to be fun.
Yet
the Italian
time
Fest
paradox.
Today's the last day. They always end on Saturday, but it's going to be going on late into the night, so it's going to be a lot of fun. So, all right, Max, it's time to do it, man. So,
oh my!
This armor's useless. Why do we even wear it?
Oh, you stink!
This is the worst.
I think it took Allan about 1 second to decide on this one. Because Allan, when we do our show prep, a little show peek behind the curtain, we bounce ideas. We don't always go with the first idea that we had.
Not always.
Sometimes we're like, I don't know if that's a good one. I put this one out there, and Allan sent me a confirmation with it. Literally, I think it was about a second. So
I was like, oh, yeah, that's got to be done.
So for this week's Historically Terrible, we are going to discuss waterbeds.
No.
And Max, to kick it off, you said that Agent 732 has. I think this is a good way to kick it off. What do they have to say?
The inventor of the modern waterbed, Charles Hall, was initially denied the patent for it because sci-fi author Robert Heinlein had described almost the exact same thing in several of his books a few years before.
So we can blame Heinlein for that, because that author,
Robert Heinlein,
a lot of people, if you're into sci-fi, or even if you're not, that guy was way ahead of his time, wasn't he? He was back in the 60s, right?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, pretty influential writer, and his stuff actually holds up really well today, doesn't it?
Extremely well.
Okay, but Allan, the water, I wonder if he envisioned this. So, okay, I'm sure some of our listeners have experienced the waterbed, and maybe, hey, you might love the water. Maybe you still have one, but
I doubt it.
Maybe do we have to describe what a waterbed is? I mean, it's just basically a big mattress filled with water.
Well, all right. One, it wasn't a mattress.
Okay.
It was 100 mil vinyl. It was a giant water balloon shaped like a mattress.
But it served you're sleeping on this.
Yeah, well, you bought them in different sizes, and they had a big port in the center. So basically, you ran a hose in through the house, and you filled this thing up with hundreds, if not thousands, of pounds of water.
It'll weigh as much as your car. I mean, the thing's sitting
huge,
especially when it's on the second story. What is that doing to your rafters?
Oh,
what is that?
Well,
what if it leaks?
Oh, let's talk about when it leaks.
Yeah.
Forgive me if I speak in hindsight, but I just have to ask why.
Well, because they could, Max, and because if it was tacky in the 70s, they did it. So, you know,
All right. You have to keep in mind, Max, that we were going from basically an agrarian world to the modern world of chemicals are good.
Oh, yeah.
We had gone
If we can make it out of plastic, let's do it.
We had gone from home-cooked meals to, no. What you want is this dinner wrapped in foil that you could just pre-cook. And looky, you have a television dinner ready to go. This was one of those technology things that just showed up. And, you know, when you first saw it, you just stood there and stared at it and went, that's weird.
Yeah.
And then you sat on it and went, well, that's kind of weird. And then you kind of laid on it and went, all right, that's again kind of weird.
It's interesting, but yeah.
It makes me think of Victor Frankenstein looking at this monster for the first time. I actually made this.
It was so the Victor Frankenstein.
But it had a big frame around it. It had a big platform and then a big, you know, usually about a 2x8 type of frame around it. And so the one thing, and then it was usually rubber lined so that in case it leaked and everything. Well, Alan, the one thing I remember about because I didn't own a waterbed, but I think a friend of mine, they had one at their house, and so you know you do these sleepovers and stuff, and so there were a few times I slept on a waterbed. Yeah, and I here's what I remember. I remember a sloshing sound in my ear.
Yes,
when you move. I remember the unsettling feeling of when you rolled over. I remember what a hassle it was to get out of the thing. Because, you know, and I'm thinking somebody with mobility issues would hate this. And then I remember waking up in the middle of the night because they were so hot. I had like a sweat thing by my back because it would, you know, you're laying on rubber basically, even if you have a sheet and a pad between it. I didn't like them at all, man. And in the winter, they were freezing cold.
Yes.
They were supposed to be heated, but, you know.
Can they freeze? Can they literally, like, turn into ice beds?
I don't see why not.
Yes,
I mean, if it gets cold enough.
And they did.
I just didn't like them. I don't know if there's people out there that like these, but, you know.
Oh, I even knew people that went so far as to have living things in their bed.
See, now that we've heard of the people that put fish in there.
Put fish in there, baby. Got little guppies and goldfish and,
It seems mean, but also wouldn't they... Okay, I'm thinking, wouldn't they create things that could deteriorate the plastic? I'm trying to be delicate. But,
or what if the fish rebel and decide to try to bite out of the mattress?
They bite their way out.
Well, you didn't put piranhas in the thing, dude. You put a goldfish, man.
Unless you were like some guy like wanted to do this as sort of like a power play.
I just remember the one call I got of... was that, you know, the cushion had been pushed aside while laundry was being done, and little Fluffy the Putty Tat had gotten on top of it, and it now looked like a sprinkler.
That's a good point. You don't let the cat near this, because the cat's going to want to sharpen its or dig its way in.
Tickety, water everywhere.
Oh, gosh.
Then, of course, there was always the people that never set the blocking up correctly, so that would fall off. And if you were on the second or third floor of an apartment building and you had managed to put one of these things together, I just distinctly remember the waterfall of water down the fire escape stairs from the burst waterbed.
I seem to remember stories, too, of these things literally collapsing the rafters. And they might fall through, or they might.
A lot of old buildings got seriously damaged by the weight of these things.
If you had an old building with maybe some rotting or termite damage or something, you put one of these babies up.
You were testing the load. These were. I mean, oh my gosh! And you could always tell when somebody was having to clean their bed out. Because the other thing was, you couldn't, to be too funky this early, but you had a big wooden box. Just picture like a giant wooden sandbox. And you put a massive, thousands of pounds, giant water balloon in it. Mm-hmm. How do you clean under and around that?
Oh, yeah. It
Well, you
would be
don't.
a dust collector. And it would collect
You didn't have dust bunnies. You had dust buffaloes.
You know what else? Things would fall in there, and they were hard to get out.
Oh, yeah. You could not find them. They were gone.
The remote control falls in there. The whole, yeah.
Yeah, that's when you just went and bought a new remote.
So
then, and I remember the number of people when the fad began to fade, and everybody kind of went, my back hurts. I'm tired of this thing.
Oh, yeah, you have no support.
Yeah, I'm just like, everybody kind of figured out, all right, it's a novelty, it's cute, but I don't want to live on it anymore.
No.
Of the draining and removal of waterbeds. Oh, my gosh.
I think there was an adage with waterbeds that was similar to what people say about owning a boat. The two best days you get a waterbed are the day you buy it and the day you get rid of it.
The day you get rid of it, yeah.
Right. So, I don't know. I folks, feel free at any point today to weigh in on your experience. Did you have a waterbed?
What are your stories? Because I guarantee you don't have one now.
Yeah. You know who I guarantee does not have a waterbed? He's too smart. Is our good buddy Larry Brown with Brown Refrigeration. Now, he does stay up on the latest technology, but he never fell for that fad, Allan. So
I don't know.
But the one thing you can count on with Larry Brown is that if you have any HVAC needs, if you have, they are always in the cutting edge of technology with their train systems, and especially the clean air technology with the Remy Halo system, blowing out the UV power of the sun, cleaning all the air that all the surfaces that this air lands on, especially these days, especially living in Memphis. You have got to have the Remy Halo system. I think it's just mission
especially
critical.
now. Yeah, our air is so nice and thick, you could chew on it right now.
And you definitely want an air conditioning. You want an HVAC company that you can count on, because it's a relationship. You are going to maintain this thing regularly. You need a rock solid company, and that's who Brown Refrigeration is. We love these guys. They are the best, Allan, and we wholeheartedly recommend them, which we do several times. Several times a month, we're giving out Larry's number. So get in touch with the good people at Brown Refrigeration. You can call them directly. They answer their phones, 901-362-1881, or go to their very easy-to-remember website, brownref.com, and go to their Facebook page. I will say he's active on Facebook, so check that out. So, all right, Allan, there's a lot on the table today, and it's going to continue. We're going to continue to shovel it on. We're going to come back, and I have an on-air confession for everybody.
All right.
You're listening to Tool Talk Radio here on News Talk 98.9 The Roar Memphis. We'll be right back.
Tool Talk Radio with Joe and Allan.
How tough am I? How tough am I? I had a bowl of nails for breakfast this morning.
News Talk 98.9, the roar of Memphis.
If you just kind of round out the sharp edges, it's not that bad, Allan.
Don't get them near the waterbed.
Good point. And welcome back to Tool Talk Radio, coming to you from the Brown Refrigeration Studios. I'm Joe Thorderson with Thor's Hammer, Carpentry and Wood Turning, here with my buddy Allan Gilbreth from darkoakmedia.com and our pal Max over there behind the glass. You can call or text us at the Big M Roofing and Remodeling Hotline at 901-683-0989. And we invite you to go over there's two Facebook pages they need to check out. First, they need to go to the News Talk 98.9 The Roar Facebook page and check us out if you want to watch the show on the Royal Retreat studio cams, which they're activated. I don't know, Allan. Right now you're on and I'm not. Mine is a little squirrely. So
they could be a little squirrely today,
but whatever. That's the way it is.
Well, that's been your history.
Connection issues.
Being a little squirrely. So,
but check it out. We love the people over at Royal Retreat, and we thank them for providing these great studio cams. And then afterwards, head on over to the Tool Talk Radio Facebook page and check out. I made a few posts this morning. We did our must-have item of the week. We did our historically terrible discussion, which is still out on the table. If anybody wants to weigh in on their experience with waterbeds, Angel weighed in on our Facebook page. She's talked about, you forgot to mention motion sickness. So. Yeah, because, in the 70s, a lot of people like to tie one on. And what did that feel like going to bed after a big night and then sleeping on the waterbed? That's got to be rough. So, but feel free to weigh in on that as well, and feel free to call or text us at any point with your thoughts, and especially with the time paradox thing that I posed earlier in the show.
Well, you asked earlier about we were talking about bicyclists and unicycles. You asked about them, and our dear buddy Agent threw in that unicyclists are the mimes of the biking world.
Okay. Well, what does that mean? Now we're going to alienate unicyclists.
Well, you're just the one weirdo in the park doing your own thing, you know? I totally respect that.
Have you ever tried to ride one? My neighbor had a unicyclist growing up, and I mean, he had a unicycle. Those things are hard to ride. I could never do it. I got about 5 feet and fell over.
Well, they got a commercial now where you get electric unicycles. You're riding around. I'm like, no, really, no.
Not to beat it into the ground, Alan, but the problem I have with unicycle is unless they have one of those really tall ones with a chain on it where you can coast a little bit. But if you're pedaling, it's more work to pedal that unicycle than it is to just ride. Than to just walk. In my opinion.
There was even a school up north for a long time that had a unicycle program, and it was basically like this. If you can learn to unicycle, you can do anything.
Oh, I don't doubt it, man. So
all right. Just throw it in there.
Well,
totally respect it. I ain't going to do it.
All right. Well, this is Tool Talk Radio, not Unicycle Talk Radio. So, Alan, let's get back to it. And
right.
I have to purge here, so... Okay.
I've called you all here because I need some honest answers.
Yeah, they all kind of broke. So, when do I start?
There is a basket of oil-soaked rags above a wood-burning stove.
Are you out of your mind? You put a jet engine on a lawnmower?
This time, they are going to be held accountable. This time, they are the ones who will pay.
Wow. Okay. Well, Alan, this is actually Max just really wanted to play that because he hasn't played the confession line in a while. So, but in truth, this is a three-pronged discussion, Max. This started off as a tool tale, which morphed into a must-have item of the week, which ultimately led to me having to make an on-air confession. So this is 3 segments in one, a three-pronged discussion, Alan. So let's start from the must-have item of the week aspect of it, Alan. I'm holding it up to the camera, although my camera's out. Why don't you hold it up to your camera?
I'll hold it up to my camera.
But tell people, what you're holding up.
That is what is known as a polarized grounding adapter plug.
Otherwise, to the layman, a 3-pronged adapter.
It's a 3-prong to 2-prong adapter.
Yeah, so if you've got a 3-prong device and you need to get it, maybe you've got an outlet that's only got 2 prongs, or you have an extension cord that's only got 2 prongs. My computer's that way. I have to plug into, one of these. So it's pretty easy. It converts it from 3 prongs into 2 prongs. So this thing is what, like $1.50 or something? These things are cheap. You should have some of these around because, especially if you live in an older home like I do. I mean, some of our outlets
are like $5 a piece at Home Depot or Lowe's or one of the big box stores or something.
Yeah. So Alan, it's a pretty basic thing. I think everybody knows what a 3-prong to 2-prong adapter is. However, I'm going to make a confession, Alan. I've been on the job. I've been out in the field sometimes, and not as much these days because I've kind of got into more cordless tools, much to your chagrin. But
to my humor,
there have been times where maybe, let's just suppose I have an extension cord that's only got 2 prongs on it for whatever reason, or I've got an outlet at a customer's house or something, and I have to plug in. Well, I've had things like a drill. In fact, Old Blue has been a victim of this, where they had the 3 prongs. One of them is the grounding prong. And I didn't have any other way to plug in, so I took my needle nose pliers and I snapped that one out, that 3rd prong out.
Yeah.
And I can't promise I haven't done that on other devices as well. So what am I risking when I do that? And obviously we're telling people not to do that. Don't do as I'm
just going to go with one simple word. That would be electrocution.
Okay.
There you go. How about that?
Well, what's the big, because we should mention it, because that 3rd one is the round, it's the
the green
and
wire.
That's the grounding
Right.
one,
It's the one they never cut in the bomb movie.
Oh.
Right.
Well, what happens when I do? Okay, it works. I was able to go, but
all right. Well, let's set the Wayback Machine for a second. Let's go visit our old buddy Benjamin.
Benjamin Franklin.
Benjamin Franklin.
Okay.
Benjamin was massively popular. He was once billed as the man who tamed God.
Because of his lightning disc deal?
Because of the lightning rod.
Okay.
And all he basically did, it's hard to imagine in our modern world, every time a thunderstorm came in, people freaked out because somebody was losing a building.
Especially if you had a building with a big bell like a church on the top, and that's a giant piece of metal attracting lightning.
Right.
Oh man.
So, but he actually came up with the idea of just taking a metal rod and making it extend above the top of the chimney and stick way down in the ground. And when the lightning came and it hit that rod, it went safely into the ground. It was, quote unquote, grounded.
Gotcha.
So, and you walk around your house, you're going to find this weird little metal rod sticking up out of the ground, usually over by your indicator to your electric company, how much electricity you're using, your meter.
Right.
You're going to find this weird little metal post and some kind of big connector tied onto it.
Right.
And that is because by modern standards, you have a ground that allows an excess arc of electricity to be dissipated off into the ground.
Right.
Now, that wasn't true all the time.
Yeah.
Because electricity only needs basically a neutral and a hot.
It needs
it only needs
work,
2 cords.
That's not the safety part. That the grounding is the part that is the ground. Okay, by me snapping this third prong out of there, am I eliminating the possibility of the circuit breaker tripping, or is it
you're eliminating the source of excess electricity where there's some form of surge, or short circuit? You have eliminated the ability of that unit to dissipate that electricity.
Okay.
So you've given it nowhere to go. It's kind of like your waterbed is going to burst, but you don't have a drain.
Okay, gotcha.
So now you're just going to live in the excess.
It would be the equivalent if you have a waterbed and there's a bunch of pressure building up and you don't have a cap to, because you could open the cap and relieve some of the water, maybe you drain a little of the water out or relieve some of the air pressure or something.
Well, it's like your radiator in your car. Once there's enough heat and time and all that, and it's getting a little up, there's an overflow.
Right. Okay.
So this is designed to let excess electricity go somewhere other than you.
Okay, now what about this 3-pronged adapter then, Alan? Is this a dangerous device?
Well,
because
you'll notice the little cap on the top of it that's going to touch the metal on the board.
Yeah, there's a little prong here where you could unscrew the outlet cover,
right,
and then it'll come in contact with that, and so this little seemingly nothing piece of metal is actually very critical.
Is the ground.
Okay, so that's what you use, and then because that touches the screw, which touches the outlet.
The metal in the building, which touches all the power, thus theoretically giving you a ground.
Right.
If any such connection exists anywhere in the property.
Right. Okay. So in other words, don't do this. Yeah.
Yeah. There's a reason we have safety rules these days.
Okay.
And a 2-prong outlet just ain't safe and needs to be updated.
Yeah, absolutely. Robbie just chimed in. He said you can't work in Midtown without one, and he's right.
Oh, that's very true.
Old,
a lot of older homes.
Alan, hour 1 of Tool Talk Radio is in the can, so to speak, but hour 2 is coming up. It's going to be really rich in discussion, and especially when we get to our great moments in building history, discussing the city of Venice, Italy.
News Talk 98.9, the roar of Memphis. Tool Talk Radio with Joe and Allan.
And welcome to hour 2 of Tool Talk Radio, coming to you from the Brown Refrigeration Studios. I'm Joe Thorderson with Thor's Hammer, Carpentry and Wood Turning, here with my buddy Allan Gilbreth from darkoakmedia.com and our pal Max over there behind the glass. You can call or text us at the Big M Roofing and Remodeling Hotline at 901-683-0989. And we invite you to go to Tool 2 Facebook pages. Go to the News Talk 98.9 The Roar Facebook page and check out the Royal Retreat studio cams, which are on. Mine's on. Okay, yep. It's been a little dicey today with connection issues, but they're on now, so you can see what it looks like here in the studios and see what Allan and I are up to. And then after that, go over to the Tool Talk Radio Facebook page and check out the posts we've made, including our must-have item of the week, which turned into more of a confession about how I can burn down homes with,
You're trying to die? Yeah.
We celebrated in our historically terrible segment, Waterbeds. Some of our regular listeners are finally waking up, I guess. They're weighing in.
Coffee's kicking in.
Yeah. Will Pepper said that he said waterbeds are awesome. We said they're terrible, but hey, to each his own. Nobody's saying don't get. I heard stories about people filling their waterbeds with like Jello.
Oh, yeah.
And things like that.
Oh, yeah.
And so
you ought to try to remove one of those.
Right, exactly. Okay,
gosh,
but
it's terrible.
so if you've got strong opinions, you can weigh in over there. Allan, also well, I want to remind. Okay, well, never mind. You made a comment. Sometimes you make these innocent little comments, and they spark a discussion. So we're going to be doing in a moment an impromptu science segment based on something you just said. It grew organically. It grew just as organically as all the algae in a waterbed. So,
absolutely.
So once again, and we also want to hear from you, the Big M Roofing and Remodeling Hotline, where you can call or text 901-683-0989, and you can also send pictures. So, hey, Allan, but I want you to tell us about our new sponsor.
Our new sponsor. Well, you know, in as well, if you remember, I'm going to put it this way: if you distinctly remember Waterbeds, it might be time to call the Royal Retreat.
Oh, okay. You're in that age. You're in that demographic.
You know, I'll throw that out there.
Okay.
To give you kind of quote, they like to say, you've worked really hard your whole life. Now it's time to be pampered.
There you go.
The Royal Retreat is an assisted living facility. So if your family is in that particular dynamic in time, by all means, call Lana Candela over there. The main office number is 901-563-2210. The Royal Retreat is convenient to Memphis, Collierville, Germantown. It's right over there.
Near the 385, which is nice.
It's right there near 385 over by Kirby Parkway. And it's a good-looking place. I still got to take you over for a tour, though.
Yeah.
You got to go get you walk around. They got new garden beds just went in, all kinds of new events. And I was there for their Memorial Day celebration, and I got news for you. They were throwing a pretty good party.
Oh, yeah. Well, it's like you said, and they seem to have a real mission statement with that's what they want. They want to take care of their residents.
They really, really do. They want to take care of you. So, again, get in touch with Lana Candela over there at 901-563-2210. Schedule a tour and go check the place out.
Absolutely. So, all right, Allan, shortly we're going to get to our great moments in building history, which in honor of the Italian Fest, folks, if you're just waking up, we want to remind you after Tool Talk Radio, well, I'd say, maybe pace yourself because it's going to be going on till late into the night, but we hope you'll come on over to the Italian Festival. It's going on at Marquette Park near the corner of Mendenhall and Park. And good luck parking, though. You got to, parking's always sort of
I know where you live.
A challenge. So yeah, but you'll find parking there. It's very safe. Great family event that happens every year, and we'll be set up there in the Tool Talk Radio. The 98.9 The Roar promotion tent.
Yep.
Just look for the beer tent and the mixed drink tent, and we're right next to it.
And the free car.
Yep. We're sandwiched right between it, so check that out. Hey, Allan, you said something that, so our must-have item of the week was the three-prong to two-prong adapter.
Right.
And you took us on the Wayback Machine, and you were talking about how back in the day, before the lightning rod, which Benjamin Franklin developed, was anytime there was rain and especially lightning, it was terrifying because you might get struck by lightning, and suddenly the lightning rod attracts the lightning and draws it into the ground where it dissipates. And okay, well, I was just thinking about something.
Hail science!
There you go. There may be unintended consequences. Okay, so let's just take ourselves back. Before the days of the lightning rod, lightning might hit a tree, or it might hit a building, or it might hit whatever, which is on the surface of the earth.
Yes.
And then it does whatever damage it's going to do, and it moves along. Well, now, around the world, because of the invention of the lightning rod, we have millions and probably billions of lightning rods, all penetrating the surface of the earth.
Yes.
So what is that doing to the crust of the earth to suddenly electrify it?
Are we awaking the mole people?
Yeah. Are we going to get Pacific Rim here? Are we loosening tectonic plates? Are we turning earthworms into, electrified monsters? What are we? I feel like there's got to be a byproduct of this.
Well, without lightning, we probably wouldn't exist.
Okay, talk to me.
Let me
Don't dodge my question.
I'm going to answer your question, but I'm going to say when the lightning hit the tree, it went through the tree into what? The ground.
Okay, I'll buy that.
Okay, so
that's a modified, but not everything was that.
Yes, if before lightning rods, lightning still all went into the ground. It just went into the ground via another vehicle.
Even a building.
Even a building, it's still connected to the ground. Just because it caught you on fire on the way through, all we did was provided a path around you.
Okay, what about the Burj Khalifa or something? These things go into the ground like a mile down into the ground.
Yes.
Surely that's not the same as there's got to be, I'm sorry, I'm not going to give up on this premise. We have the makings of a good sci-fi movie here.
We do. What we have is making is a really great horror film without lightning.
Okay.
Because lightning transfers electrons from one area to another, allows storms to coalesce and move along. It also provides ozone, which keeps us from being burned alive by the UV radiation of our solar system.
Okay.
So lightning may even have a role in the very creation of life on the planet.
Max,
because
why do I
lightning
feel like
strikes, we're pumping a lot of power into everything going on here.
Max, why do I feel like he's dodging the question? He's part of something here that I've just uncovered, and he's deflecting. He's deflecting the question out. I'm sorry. I think there's something here. So.
Now, what lightning
Which
has
mole people
always
paid you
gone
off?
into the planet.
Okay.
So all we're doing is not having it go through you to get to the planet.
I don't know. If you've got thoughts about this, and if you're on my side, that this is actually...
And if you're a mole person, please text us.
Yeah, let us know. And if
before the lizard people do.
Exactly. All right, Alan, when we come back, though, we are going to discuss something that is grounded in science, and it's going to be a very interesting discussion in our Great Moments in Building History as we discuss the city of Venice.
Tool Talk Radio with Joe and Allan.
Floor feels a little gritty here.
Yeah, we ran out of floorboards there, so we painted the dirt. Pretty clever.
News Talk 98.9, the roar of Memphis.
You know what, Alan? If you get tired of the color, it's really easy to change,
It is.
too. So.
Get a broom.
And welcome back to Tool Talk Radio, coming to you from the Brown Refrigeration Studios. I'm Joe Thorderson with Thor's Hammer, Carpentry and Wood Turning, here with my buddy Allan Gilbreth from darkoakmedia.com and our pal Max over there behind the glass. You can call or text us at the Big M Roofing and Remodeling Hotline at 901-683-0989. And we also invite you to go to the News Talk 98.9 The Roar Facebook page and check out the Royal Retreat studio cams, which are activated. Yep. We're on the air. Or, if you want to watch and listen to the show, you can do that. And then, of course, afterwards, we invite you to go to the Tool Talk Radio Facebook page and give us a like and check out the posts we've made over there. Now, Allan, before the break, once again, this is what happens. With these conversations always grow organically. We agreed we're going to put a pin in this and bring it back next week because I posited the notion that with the invention of the lightning rod,
right,
you're suddenly taking billions of volts of electricity and driving them way into the ground, especially when you get to a city where these skyscrapers have these huge, going a mile into the ground. I think there's side effects that maybe they're unintended consequences. You wanted to deflect the question, but then off the air, you sort of admitted that I had a point.
You do have a point.
In fact, we got a text. Somebody said they're a mole person and we're getting too close to the truth. Is that right, Max? And so we better just shut our mouths or whatever. I don't know. We're activating, we're uncovering truths. That maybe.
By the way, the representative of the mole people says lightning good. Lightning power hidden underground machines that will one day overthrow humanity. Lightning just too bright for eyes. Rods bring lightning down and protect eyes.
There you go. See, the mole people have spoken, Allan. And I'm glad to hear that they get a radio signal under there. So
thank you, Agent 732. He's the proxy.
Okay, well, you should. Okay, thanks. So he's had a busy morning. So, but hey, Allan, we're gonna put a pin in that because this is a bigger discussion, and we've actually touched on something.
Yes.
So next week, if you want to chime in, we're gonna maybe go deeper. We're gonna dive deeper into the underground.
Why your cities are sinking.
So in a minute, Max, we want to get to our great moments in building history. Before we do that, though, of course, we want to discuss our good buddy Jay Hill with Big M Roofing and Remodeling. Allan, I don't know if we can do better than to share. I guess we got to find the post. Robbie, he's a listener. He's a very loyal listener. He got his new Big M roof this week. He made a glowing post about this and just how happy he was. He said how glad he was he listens to the show because Jay did exactly what he said. I guess he was in a situation where he had a homeowner's claim because, as we've said on the past, Jay Hill is not only a GAF Master Elite Installer, he's 5 stars with the Better Business Bureau and Good Housekeeping, and they install, of course, roofing systems, and GAF is always at the cutting edge of technology. But what sets Jay apart is the fact that he's a former insurance agent, which is important because there are many times where your homeowner's insurance will cover damage to your roof, but it's just a really confusing process. I'm sure it's that way on purpose too, Allan, to discourage people from taking advantage. But
I'm pretty sure the Incredibles were not making fun of anything at all at the beginning of that movie.
That's a good point. So he's kind of like the Mr. Incredible, isn't he? So that's going to be his new nickname.
Help you navigate that. Yes.
So Jay can help you navigate that, and if you have a path forward, then he'll let you know. If you don't have a path forward, that's okay. You want information. You want to be dealing with the correct information. So get in touch with Jay. That's one of the great services he provides. Also, he really specializes in the exterior protection of your home, and they work in a systematic way. He deals with gutters, siding, and windows, and so you got the roof, siding, gutters, windows. That is the full exterior protection of your home. So you want those all working in harmony with qualified technicians and a company that's going to be around for the long haul when you. Maybe you need a tune-up. Maybe you need something there's a follow-up visit. You can get in touch with Jay. He's just a great guy, a very dynamic personality, and also he has relationships with he has 30 lenders at his disposal.
Yes.
So if you need to financing's not a problem. It literally takes 2 minutes to apply. You're going to find a lender with the terms that work for you. So get in touch with Jay. I always recommend calling him late at night or calling him during a football game or something because he'll answer the phone. You can call him directly at 901-484-5645 or go to bigmroofingandremodeling.com. All right, this is going to be an interesting one, Max. Let's hit it.
And now, great moments in building history.
Well, Allan, in honor of shortly, we're going to leave the nice, friendly, comfortable confines of this air-conditioned studio and brave the heat over at the Memphis Italian Festival. So we thought, well, surely we better, for great moments in building history, let's talk about something in Italy. And I'm happy to report I learned quite a bit on this. We're going to discuss the city of Venice and actually, at one point, it was the country of Venice, I believe.
It was?
It was its own independent country. And so it's one of these, I dare say everybody knows what Venice is. It's the place they built on, I think, 118 different little islands and basically in swamp territory. But it's off into the, it's sort of almost like a gulf, right, Allan? I don't know what they call it, but it's in the water. It's a little isolated city, and the first thing you might ask is, well, why would they build this? Why would you build here? This is like the worst conditions you could have for erecting a thing. So what I learned, which I didn't realize, because I've been to Italy, but I've never been to Venice. But it's beautiful, and as you know, the ground is very fertile. That's probably one of the reasons the Roman Empire was so successful, because the ground in Italy is very great for grape. It's, crops are, well, if you're looking at we know Italy is shaped like a boot. If you're looking at the top right side of the boot, almost like a Captain America boot or something. But on that section, if you go up just a little bit, you're at the Alps, which is a very difficult terrain. If you're a marauding army and you're trying to invade different countries, it's a very difficult place to go. And if you go south of that, there's the sea. And so this little valley here throughout history, there were constantly battles over this space because it was really, really fertile, great land, and it was strategically placed. So it was almost like a funneling all these tyrants through there. And eventually the people got tired of living there, and so they moved off onto this island area.
Yep.
And apparently it started thriving because it kept the armies at bay and everything. So that's why they built it, which I didn't know that. I thought that was very interesting.
lived in that little valley until the Lombards showed up.
The Lombards,
And they just went, all right, that's it. We're out in the swamp. Yeah, all right.
We're talking about, this is about 1500.
Oh, no, this was at 421 AD.
421, so we're talking over, 1,600 years ago. So.
Yeah, we're
That's a long time ago.
You know, and basically the running gag was, all right, every time we move, somebody moves us along. So we're going to pick a place so terrible, nobody is going to want to live there but us.
And they have a barrier. Like in castles, they used to build moats around the castle. This is like the ultimate moat because it's it's like a 2 mile, I think it's 4 miles between the land and the island, I believe, something like that.
And the fact that you got to think like the Florida Keys. It's a lot of little bitty chunks of land and coral and debris and all that kind of stuff, all just really close together with all these little inlets between them.
Yeah.
And you talk about building acumen. These people looked at that and I went, okay, every place that's solid, we're going to start building.
Right.
And then we're just going to leapfrog around it. And basically what they built was probably the best castle you could have ever built because there's no real way of getting into the city in a large organized force.
It's not worth the trouble because the other thing is, let's suppose you're this marauding army. Okay, first of all, you got to get your soldiers out there on boats, which they didn't carry boats.
But you can't use the big boats.
And you get out there, well, big deal. I just conquered a swamp island. What do I care? So they just basically passed by. They left them alone. Now they were burning and pillaging inland, but,
well,
I'm just.
And here's kind of what happens. When a place gets left alone, it begins to prosper.
Right.
And because they're making
fertile land.
They're making the most of what they got. And what they've got is an amazing seaport.
And they got fit. I mean,
and food is delivered. I mean, food is literally being delivered as you pull in.
Right.
So sanitation is not a problem. The plague is not a problem. A lot of horrible things that happen in Europe don't actually happen to Venice.
Yeah, you were kind of in your own little remote kind of. I mean, now granted, whoever started it up, they had the tough job because they had to get things. They had to get things started. But once it's funny because at one point it was the most prosperous place you could say in Europe. I mean, it became a powerhouse. Became a trade.
It was a huge center. Yeah,
and it's still So, but it's interesting because the construction technique. We're talking 1,600 years ago because you would never build a house there. In fact, I think there's a biblical proverb against building in places like that. But you're talking about swamp, and you and I have been around that. I remember growing up, we would go by these kind of swampy areas, and you walk across, and your foot just sinks right into it. So they had to overcome that challenge, and so that's going to be an interesting point of discussion too.
Well, and that is where putting in the foundation becomes so critical. And we'll get more into that when we come back.
Yeah, because that's the part. It's like, okay, well, we understand the why, which I never really understood before. But now, once you understand the why, you understand why they were so motivated to make this happen. But also, Alan, there's still a lot of challenges because, okay, well, if you build on there, there's rotting. There's all sorts of challenges that these noble Venetians overcame, and we're going to unpack that when we come back. You're listening to Tool Talk Radio here at News Talk 98.9 The Roar of Memphis. We'll be right back.
Tool Talk Radio with Joe and Allan.
You may feel a slight sighing.
News Talk 98.9 The Roar of Memphis.
Yeah, nothing a little Novocaine won't help there, Alan. And welcome back to, is that Novocaine? What kills the pain? Novocaine? Whatever.
Yeah, Novocaine's good.
Just edit that out, Max. And welcome back to Tool Talk Radio, coming to you from the Brown Refrigeration Studios. I'm Joe Thorderson with Thor's Hammer, Carpentry and Wood Turning. Here with my buddy Allan Gilbreth from darkoakmedia.com and our pal Max over there behind the glass. You can call or text us at the Big M Roofing and Remodeling Hotline at 901-683-0989. And we invite you to go to the Facebook page, the 98.9 The Roar Facebook page. Check us out on the Royal Retreat studio cams, which are going. If you want to watch the show and listen at the same time, you can do that. And actually, you can come back and listen, or you can watch it 24 hours a day if you want. Once it's posted, it's there forever, Allan. So watch.
That's kind of scary.
Yeah. And then after that, visit our Tool Talk Radio Facebook page and check out the action over there, and see the different posts we've made. And then, of course, get over to tooltalkradio.com if you want to check out any of our past shows. And there's links for all of our platforms. And it's fun knowing that we have people around the world that are listening. So
absolutely.
Pretty cool. Hey, Al, we got a lot to get to, man. So in honor of us being over at the Italian Fest later, we're discussing, for our Great Moments in Building History, the city of Venice, which earlier we explained kind of why they were motivated to build on an island in this, a swamp-laden island out in the ocean, because it was actually a place of safety. And it's really beautiful out there. I mean, let's not lie. But it's hazardous to live out there. But now we're talking about people living 1,600 years ago. And then how do you actually do this? If you walk on that swamp, you're going to sink into it. You can't build a home on that unless you come up with a really cunning technique, which they did.
Well,
which involved a lot of sledgehammers, I have to believe.
And we still echo it today.
Yeah.
You like to build decks.
Right.
How is a deck supported?
Well, yeah. I mean, I haven't had to go this radical, but I know what you're saying. So
you haven't used a 60-foot post to set a deck yet?
No. So it's like...
but yeah, they did. They would use like alder wood and stuff like that, and they would drive post through the muck and the mire all the way down into the bedrock of the seafloor, and...
Well,
yeah, that's how you anchored this end of the bridge to the next little island, and so they kept basically platform building.
Well, I saw a great video, and there's plenty of YouTube videos about this, folks. And of course, we're going to also get to the point to the fact that Venice is now sinking too, which is a concern.
A lot of cities are
There's
sinking,
a lot of things happening, but what they did, the way this guy explained it, was very, very interesting. He just basically said that he did a demonstration of himself. He stepped in the thing, and then they just took several branches and they drove them into the mud straight down, and then they put a platform there, and it was rock. It was very solid, because by driving the wood, which is a special kind of wood that doesn't deteriorate either.
It's older.
By driving it into the ground, you are now compressing the mud and making it harder. You're firm. You're changing. You're driving out the air bubbles. You're making this just by the simple fact of driving. It's pretty brilliant. I wish I knew this when I was a kid, when we were making all these tree forts and things like that. But okay, Allan, it's one thing to build that. I might even consider building a house with that system, driving wood, pylon. I mean, there are cathedrals. There are some pretty big structures on Venice. I don't know that I'd want to trust my entire city to something like this. I don't know. Well, I mean, I know they didn't start off that way. They probably started off pretty humbly, but that to me is a little bit problematic. It's like it's built on you
got 118 different islands underneath Venice.
Right.
So you do have some solid land. And the best solid land, of course, is going to be the grandest of structures.
Right.
So normal, everyday construction ideas. However, because you are looking at a shifting landscape or seascape, in this case, different allocations have been made over the centuries to renovate, prop up, and on occasion elevate buildings.
Yeah, I've heard that. They have to literally jack a building up,
Well, there are a few buildings where the bottom floor is now the basement.
I think we saw that in Ocean's 12 or something like that, one of those movies. Yeah.
So here is basically an ongoing engineering challenge.
Right.
Because we're going to get into something called sedition here, which is when you put enough weight on something, you press it down.
And eventually, I guess it hits a firm foundation where it just settles on that, right?
You hope.
Yeah.
Ask the Leaning Tower of Pisa.
I do want to make one quick little comment here, though, Allan, because I can hear people screaming at the radio right now. It's like they're probably saying, Okay, well, if you build a wooden structure and you put it in the ocean, it's obviously gonna rot. You have wood that's gonna be constantly saturated, but that's not necessarily the case, right, Max?
That's because this water is salty, and that prevents oxygen from forming, i.e., the presence of fungi and decay.
Right, which is it's funny because it actually creates the opposite effect. We've talked about how when they used to make concrete in Rome, which is why the Colosseum and things are still standing, is because the salt actually strengthens it, and it's doing the same thing here, right?
I was just thinking, is it a similar principle if you built around a bog? Because of that prevents decay. You wonder if bogs would also be similarly accommodating, or maybe even more so than the Venetian.
Because there's no oxygen.
Well, you know what? The entire country of Holland loves that theory because they use peat bogs, and as a matter of fact, they're now having a problem where they have gone in and mined too much of the peat out.
Oh, yeah.
And they're actually getting liquefaction or water creeping back in. So welcome to, Joe, we love to talk about unintended consequences.
Yeah.
So yes, things like peat bogs and salt water do preserve things, but then they bring up other issues.
But Alan, by choosing this material, what I was saying is now these pylons that they drove into there 1,600 years ago, they're almost the consistency of rock. They've hardened to the point where they're very solid. So they had to know this stuff. I mean,
not really. They just went.
They didn't just luckily guess to pick the right wood. I think they picked wood that could withstand things.
Well, they had observed that different woods worked differently in different environments.
Okay.
It's like you're a carpenter,
and
you know that pine is good for certain things, but it's a soft wood.
Right.
And you wouldn't trust it for certain applications.
Yeah.
However, we're working with this alder over here, and that alder just doesn't rot.
Right.
Or like cedar just won't rot. Or just, these things really hold up over a long time. So they began making those choices based on observation. Just like you do now, they were doing it then. And they made I'm sure they made a few foolish choices. And I'm sure one or two of those fell over into the pond. However, the good choices held up. You keep making good choices. And this past year, Venice actually had a weird opposite problem.
Okay.
The lagoon got backed up, so Venice began drying out.
Oh, yeah.
And a lot of the canals no longer had water in them between the islands. And you talk about being an antique kind of person.
Mm-hmm.
Can you imagine walking through a canal with 1,000 years of Italian history?
Oh, yeah.
Laying in the bottom of it.
Yeah.
Somebody just dropped a cup 700 years ago.
And you're finding all this,
and it's still down there.
Right.
And you just walking along, and here's a cup from 800 years ago where it landed because someone dropped it out a window.
I wanted to mention something too, Alan, because we're sitting there, we're focusing on the building aspect of this. However, what's interesting to me about the history, as all this is, Venice starts out as a bunch of farmers fleeing and trying to just not get slaughtered by these marauders. Okay, well, so they build up this very clever community there. Well, they start becoming actually very, they become a key player in the trade, like in spice trades and stuff. Well, also it's really beautiful there. Suddenly they go from this basically refugee camp to a tourist destination, and suddenly a world powerhouse. And
visit Venice.
It is the ultimate strategic location. In fact, wasn't it its own independent nation for a while? And it's just funny how this happens, because you keep wondering, well, why would you do this? But now it starts to make a lot of sense why they're doing this. And now they're faced, like we said, they're faced with a situation of they have this hugely popular location. There's only 55,000 residents. However, they get 8 million tourists a year.
Yeah.
That's a lot of weight adding to these things and pushing down. And so now, Alan, they have to save Venice. They're sort of stuck.
Well, yeah.
And we have rising sea levels. We have all these problems that now it's a big race against time, right? I mean, this is...
Well, Venice is a good litmus test for a lot of this, because they are very vulnerable, because not only is the water an integral part of Venice.
Mhm.
They can't do without it.
Yeah.
But they're honestly, as we would say, they're dead in the middle of it. So if sea levels rise an inch, that's an inch more water in Venice.
If it goes up 9 inches, if you get a high tide, the streets just flood. And I was watching videos of this, Alan. It's the weirdest thing. The water was knee deep in the streets, and they're walking around. They're still going to Starbucks.
Yeah.
They're still they're buying their pastries. And I'm like, okay, I don't know that I'm not that hardcore. I don't think I
live in Venice. You're not that chilled and groovy.
But that seems like it's got its own problems and stuff. So, I don't know.
Well, here's the thing. If you've always had those issues, they stop becoming issues and they just become conditions.
Okay.
So that the high tide is coming. The water is going to go up 2 feet.
Right.
Well, you build good enough drainage so that as soon as the tide goes out, all the water goes back out with it. It's just part of their system.
Okay, and I know we'd be remiss if we didn't mention, because I know some of our listeners out there are going, well, what about sewage? They apparently have a pretty great system that the water is so salty and everything that sewage apparently is it's not one of their problems. There's a lot of recycling going on.
Yes,
let's just put it that way.
Very happily, they've adjusted to that very well.
However, they still have to fix the issue because the city is sinking and the water is coming in. They've got a solution that they're working on, and we're going to discuss that when we come back. You're listening to Tool Talk Radio here at News Talk 98.9 The Roar Memphis. We're going to take a quick break, and we'll be right back.
Tool Talk Radio with Joe and Allan.
Extraordinary events call for extraordinary actions. Will you form an allegiance to use sudden violence? Okay. Do you have the tools to turn a wooden mop handle into a stake? Which size?
News Talk 98.9, the roar of Memphis.
I think this is going to become necessary, especially with the mole people contacting us.
Yeah, they're reaching out. Yeah, but Allan, that's the kind of can-do attitude you look for in your employees, isn't it? And welcome back to Tool Talk Radio, coming to you from the Brown Refrigeration Studios. I'm Joe Thorderson with Thor's Hammer, Carpentry and Wood Turning, here with my buddy Allan Gilbreth from darkoakmedia.com and our pal Max over there behind the glass. If you're really fast, you can call or text us at the Big M Roofing and Remodeling Hotline at 901-683-0989, like some people are doing. People have feelings about these water. We've discussed a lot, Allan, in our historically terrible. We discussed waterbeds, and Robbie said that he can hear the floorboards groaning from here.
Oh, my gosh.
Think of that. How much weight? It has to be the same weight as a car up in there.
When you're renovating these older homes, the fun part, and I had to explain to some people a couple of years ago, what this weird imprint was in the subfloor.
Sure.
And it was like, no, this used to be a waterbed.
Oh, yeah.
And he goes like, why is there this big rectangle in the center of the room?
What is that bulge saying?
Yeah, and it's kind of like, all right, guys, that's where the waterbed was, and that's where it leaked, and that's where it stained the floor.
Now, also, if you want to watch the show, you can go to News Talk 98.9, The Roar's Facebook page, and check out the Royal Retreat studio cams. They're on, and we're doing the show on camera, Max. So.
It's probably good that my camera isn't on because I'm sharpening a steak right now.
Okay, good. So he's been waiting for 5 minutes to say that. So, and then also after that, go to the Tool Talk Radio Facebook page and give us a like and check out all the posts over there and share it with friends. Let them know all about Tool Talk Radio. So in a minute, Allan, we're going to kind of conclude our discussion because we've been talking in our Great Moments in Building History about Venice, Italy, and about why it was constructed, how it was constructed, and how now it is sinking into the ocean, and they need to do something to salvage it. And there's a plan in place, so we're going to discuss that in a minute. Before we do that, Allan, what are you up to with darkoakmedia.com this week?
Well, of course, we're going to be filming out at the Italian Festival this afternoon, so if you want to be on TV,
okay,
we got a crew loose out there.
Make sure you're interesting.
Yeah, well,
make sure you're not drunk.
Well, then you might be more interesting than you think.
Yeah, so.
Excuse me. Big things going on over there, of course. The Tool Talk Radio podcast is broadcast on YouTube via Dark Oak Media, and we are just all over the world. Get to give another shout out to our buddies in New Zealand, who apparently we have a growing population of fans down there.
Oh, cool. That's fun.
Yeah, pop over to tooltalkradio.com, subscribe, give us a like, and follow along, and you can go with us anywhere in the world.
Awesome. Okay, Allan. Now, really quickly, I want to let people know that I'm working. I'm pretty much done over there in Midtown. And Becky, thanks for a great experience. That was a fun job, man. I did so much work over there. A lot of interesting projects. It's an old Midtown home, but it's time to move along. So, the next thing I'm tackling, Allan, is I'm building a laundry room for somebody. Go figure. There's a lot of moving parts. Jay Hill's even going to play a role in that project. But if you've got anything to do with carpentry, that's my game. And I'm very happy to say, Allan, lumber prices are starting to normalize. I bought a 2x4 for $4 the other day. I call that a success.
Yeah,
so, yeah,
it felt good. Yeah.
So anyway, lumber, it's a great time to build, especially if you have a deck or a patio cover or a pergola or something, especially something interesting for the outside of your home. I'd love to do it. Get in touch with me. You can call me directly at 901-921-7105 or go to my website, thorshomes.com. All right, Allan, before the break, we've been talking about Venice. It's sinking. It's built on swampy, marshland. They have a pretty good technique for building, but there's only so much weight it can handle. And apparently, according to scientists, they said it's sinking at a rate of about 1 millimeter a year, which doesn't sound like much until you start adding it up, and you're like, okay, well, over 2 or 3 decades or over a century, what is that?
When your city's 1,600 years old.
Right.
Yeah.
And so, and it's older material. So they've got a system in place, which the acronym is MO. Well, it's kind of MOS anyway. Here's the Italian version: Modulo Sperimentale Elettromeccanico, which is in English experimental electromechanical module. So it doesn't really work if you translate it to English, but
it's okay.
It's supposed to be based on Moses. I think they were really going for the acronym before they came up with the name.
Part the waters.
They want to part the water, and basically, so if you look at a map of Venice, you'll see that there's almost this kind of like natural jetty or something. Right. And then there's 3 openings to this that let water in and let it out.
Yes.
Well, apparently when there's trouble, like they don't let ships go by there anymore because it creates waves. If the water level starts to rise, they had to come up with a way to combat that. So they came up with these basically underwater they rise up. What are they called? They're almost like a door, like a door that comes from the bottom of the ocean, and then it comes up and it blocks the water from.
Okay.
I don't know what I'm not describing it very well, Allan. You're not helping me. It's a retractable system.
Think of like a Batman movie where the thing pops up out of the floor.
Yeah, it almost looks like something out of a James Bond movie or something. Like the evil villain creates this so that you can't get through.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The League of Supervillains was hired to build a secret wall around Venice so that they can escalate up and hold out the excess water.
Yeah.
So it's part of the program. The other program is they're working with the artesian wells they sunk in the 60s.
Oh, that created all sorts of problems.
It's like, great idea, guys, but you weren't thinking 20 years down the line. So there are a lot of different moving parts to keep Venice around for another 1,000 years.
Yeah, it's a challenge because they say at the rate it's sinking and then the way the sea level is rising, it really is a race against time.
Yes.
This Moses system, or Moses system, if we want to call it that, was started. The plans were started in 1980, but there were all sorts of holdups, and then there was actually a corruption scandal that the money didn't go where it was supposed to go. But so originally they said, well, it's going to be completed in 2011, which it wasn't. It'll be completed in 2018. Now the goal is to have it completed by 2025. It's partially there, but it looks really complicated to me, man. It looks
there are a lot of moving parts. Yes.
Yeah. So it basically the idea would it's very simple. It's always the simple ideas that seem to work, but I think they've tested it, and to a degree, it is working. So it better because it's going to cost I think $7 billion.
It wasn't cheap to do this. No,
but I mean, what choice do they have? They've built up this. I guess it's just an interesting whole dynamic where they basically, the history of Venice is really fascinating. They went from out of necessity fleeing this area to now because it's such a money. I mean, they don't have to. The city of Venice, if it went away, the people would find a safe place to live, but because it's only 55,000 residents, but it's such a worldwide tourist destination. And
right, it's an international treasure. The biggest thing is a lot of the techniques that they're experimenting with and they're looking at in Venice are going to be used in other cities, especially even in the United States.
Sure.
Because we have a lot of cities that are also suffering from sedition and rising water. And right off the top of my head, I can think of New Orleans and New York.
Sure. Yeah, New Orleans was the first one I think probably everybody's mind went to.
Everybody's kind of like, oh, the water is rising and we need to put the swamps back in and build back up the buffers. And, what are we going to do if? And so there's a lot going on about keeping things at the water level above them.
You know what's interesting, Alan? Because I feel like, okay, it still seems to me it's a Band-Aid solution because you're still fighting nature. You know what I mean? It
Correct.
seems to me this project we talked about a few weeks ago in Japan, Max, what was it called? The
Sky Mile Tower.
Sky Mile Tower, where they're like, okay, we're not even going to fight anymore. We're going to actually build in the water.
Yes.
And we're going to construct with all of this in mind. I feel like that's going to be the approach going forward. Is like, look, it's inevitable. We're dealing with this, so let's build it and use that to our advantage. Because they're using the notion of building in water in Japan there actually to bolster the space and to make it better. So, I don't know. So, very interesting. We're seeing the old world, colliding with the new. So
well, and we're revisiting the necessity issue, much like the formation of Venice was out of necessity. We're now 1,600 years later looking at it again and going, okay, let's get to the root cause analysis. This is happening for certain reasons. Now, what are our options?
Yeah.
What can we do? And with our new technologies, what can we really do that we couldn't have done 1,600 years ago?
Sure. Yep. Well, it's pretty interesting. I would strongly recommend if you have YouTube, go over to YouTube and just researching Venice was fascinating. This was one of the more interesting great moments in building history I ever researched, and I can't wait to go do more research, Alan. So, all right, Alan, we're getting out of here, but we hope you'll come visit us at the Memphis Italian Fest. Alan and I will be there the better part of the day, giving away free Tool Talk Radio swag. So check it out. But it's time to go, Alan. Let's scoot out of here. So until next week, this is Tool Talk Radio. What am I doing? Let's just go home.